All right, I'm going to read this because I think it has a great purpose for something for me. I don't know what it is though, so as soon as I can get this all adjusted so I can be able to hear myself read. All right, I'm going to set the mic in front of me. Oh, there we go. That might like. All right, here we go. Listen to this. This is fucking crazy. Sympathy with the great laboring classes, respect for labor itself, and resolution to do some good work in our day and generation. These are the lessons of this degree, and they are purely Masonic. Masonry has made a working man and his associates the heroes of his principal legend, and himself the companion of the kings. The idea is as simple and true as it is sublime. From this first to last, Masonry is work. It venerates the grand architect of the universe. It commemorates the building of a temple. Its principal emblems are the working tools of the mason and artisan. It preserves the name of the first worker in brass and iron as one of its passwords. Look into what that is. When the brethren meet together, they are at labor. The master is the overseer who sets the craft to work and gives them proper instruction. Masonry is the apotheosis of work. Apotheosis. It is the hands of the brave, forgotten men that have made this great, populous, cultivated world a world for us. It is all work and forgotten work. The real conquerors, creators, and eternal proprietors of every great and civilized land are all the heroic souls that ever were in it, each in his degree. All the men that ever felled a forest tree, or drained a marsh, or contrived a wise scheme, or did or said a true or valiant thing therein. Genuine work alone, done faithfully, is eternal, even as the Almighty Founder and World Builder himself. All work is noble. A life of ease is not for any man, nor for any god. The Almighty Maker is not like one who, in old immemorial ages, having made his machine of a universe, sits ever since and sees it go. Out of that belief comes atheism. The faith is an invisible, unnameable, directing deity, present everywhere in all that we see and work and suffer. It is the essence of all faith whatsoever. The life of all gods figures itself to us as a sublime earnestness of infinite battle against infinite labor. Our highest religion is named the worship of sorrow. For the Son of Man there is no noble crown, well worn or even ill worn, but is a crown of thorns. Man's highest destiny is not to be happy, to love pleasant things and find them. His only true unhappiness should be that he cannot work and get his destiny as a man fulfilled. The day passes swiftly over, our lives pass swiftly over, and the night cometh, wherein no man can work. That night once come, our happiness and unhappiness are vanished, and become as things we never were. But our work is not abolished, and has not vanished. It remains, or the want of it remains, for endless time and eternities. Whatsoever of morality and intelligence, what of patience, perseverance, faithfulness, of method, insight, ingenuity, energy, in a word, whatsoever of strength a man has in him, will lie written in the work he does. To work is to try himself against nature and her unerring, everlasting laws, and they will return true verdict as to him. The noblest epic is a mighty empire slowly built together, a mighty series of heroic deeds, a mighty conquest over chaos. Deeds are the greater than words. They have a life, mute but undeniable, and grow. These people, sorry, They people the vacuity of time and make it green and worthy. Labor is the truest emblem of God, the architect, whoops, an internal maker. I lost my spot there. Noble labor, which is yet to be the king of this earth, and sits on the highest throne. Men without duties to do are like the trees planted on precipices, from the roots of which all the earth has crumbled. Nature owns no man who is not also a martyr. She scorns the man who sits screened from all work, from want, danger, hardship, the victory over which is work, and has all his work and battling done by other men. And yet there are men who pride themselves that they and theirs have done no work time out of mind. So neither have the swine. The chief of men is he who stands in the van of men, fronting the perils which frighten back all others, and if not vanished, would devour them. Hercules was worshipped for 12 labors. The Tsar of Russia became a toiling shipwright and worked with his axe in the docks of Sardam. And something came of that. Cromwell worked, and Napoleon, and affected somewhat. There is a perennial nobleness and even sacredness in work, but he never so benign and forgetful of his high calling. There is always hope in a man who actually and earnestly works. In idleness alone there is perpetual despair. Man perfects himself by working. Jungles are cleared away, fair seed fields rise instead, and stately cities, and withal the man himself first ceases to be found unwholesome jungle and desert thereby. Even in the meanest sort of labor, the whole soul of man is composed into a kind of real harmony. The moment he begins to work, doubt, desire, sorrow, remorse, indignation, and even despair shrink murmuring far off in their caves. Whenever the man bends himself resolutely against his task, labor is life. From the inmost heart of the workers rises his God-given force, the sacred celestial life essence, breathed into him by Almighty God, and awakens him to all nobleness, as soon as work fitly begins. By it man learns patience, courage, perseverance, openness to light, and readiness to own himself mistaken, resolution to do better and improve. Only by labor will man continually learn the virtues. There is no religion in stagnation and inaction, but only activity and exertion. There was the deepest truth in saying of old monks, I can't read Latin, labore est orare, or some shit. 14, let's look it up. 14, it doesn't tell us. Okay, well, that's helpful. He prayeth best, who loveth best all things, both great and small, and can make love except by working earnestly to benefit that being whom he loves. Loves? Work, and therein having well-being, is the oldest of gospels, unpreached, inarticulate, but ineradicable, interdictable, I don't know what that word is, and enduring forever. To make disorder, wherever found, an eternal enemy, to attack and subdue him, and make order of him, the subject not of chaos, but of intelligence and divinity, and ourselves, to attack ignorance, stupidity, and brute-mindedness, wherever founded, to smite it wisely and unweariedly, to rest not while we live, and it lives, in the name of God. This is our duty as Masons. Command us by the highest God, even he, with his unspoken voice, more awful than the thunders of Sinai, or the syllabled speech of the hurricane, speaking to us. The unborn ages, the old graves, with their long moldering dust, speak to us. the deep death kingdoms, the stars in their never-resting course, all space and all time. I'm gonna pause real quick. This is a fucking ad. Tito and Chuck. Fuck Tito and Chuck. You faggot. Oh, crikey. Ooh, I found something. I'm gonna read it again. The deep death kingdoms, the stars in their never-resting course, all space and all time, silently and continually admonished us that we too must work while it is called today. Labor, wide as the earth, has its summit in heaven. To toil, whether the sweat of the brow or the brain or heart is worship, the noblest thing yet discovered beneath the stars. Let the weary cease to think that labor is a curse and doom pronounced by deity. Without it, there could be no true excellence in human nature. Without it, in pain and sorrow, where would we be the human virtues? Where patience, perseverance, submission, energy, endurance, fortitude, bravery, disinterestedness, self-sacrifice, and noblest excellence of the soul, where would those all be? Let him who toils complain not, or feel humiliated. Let him look up and see his fellow workmen there, in God's eternity, they alone surviving there. Even in the weak human memory they long survive, as saints, as heroes, and as gods. They alone survive and people the unmeasured solitude of time. Let me make sure I skip the right amount of pages. 15, 16. To the primeval man, whatsoever good came, descended on him, as in mere fact it ever does direct from God. Whatsoever duty lay visible for him, this a supreme God has prescribed. For the primeval man, in whom dwelt thought, this universe was all a temple, life everywhere a worship. Duty is with us always. Duty is with us ever, and evermore forbids us to be idle, to work with the hands or brain according to our requirements and our capabilities. To do that which lies before us to do is most honorable than rank and title. Plowers, spinners, builders, inventors, and men of science, poets, advocates, and writers, that's me, all stand upon a common level and form one grand innumerable host, marching ever onward since the beginning of the world. Each entitles our sympathy and respect, each a man and our brother. It was well to give the earth to man as a dark mass, whereon to labor. It was well to provide rude and unsightly materials in the ore bed and the forest, for him to fashion into splendor and beauty. It was well, not because that the splendor and beauty, but because the act creating them is better than the things themselves, because exertion is nobler than enjoyment, because the labor is greater and more worthy of honor than the idler. This is basically, it's telling me to fucking, oh my god, the 22s that I would always see, 22, is telling me fucking work. Jesus. And this is literally saying, like, you fucking need to work. Oh my lord, man, because this is the 22nd degree. That's what fucking is crazy. I don't fucking like it. But I'll do it. I need to work. I understand. I have to keep working. Christ. Masonry stands up for the nobility of labor. It is heaven's great ordinates for human improvement. It has been broken down for ages, and Masonry desires to build it up again. It has been broken down because men toil only because they must, submitting to it in some sort, a degrading necessity, and desiring nothing so much on earth as to escape from it. They fulfill the great law of labor in the letter, but break it in spirit. They fulfill it with the muscles, but break it with the mind. So we're monotony. We're basically just working subconsciously, just like because we have to. But in our minds, we don't want to do this. It's basically saying it's not sinful as in you're going to go to hell for it, but in a sense, it is sinful to not have respect for your work. And if you don't have respect for your work, that is not the work for you. Maybe, or maybe no, you must do all work, even if it is humiliating to you. Okay. All right. Masonry teaches that every idler ought to hasten to some field of labor, manual or mental, as a chosen and coveted theater of improvement. But he is not impelled to do so under the teachings of an imperfect civilization. On the contrary, he sits down, folds his hands, and blesses and glorifies himself in his idleness. It is time that this, opprobrium of toil were done away. To be ashamed of toil, of the dingy, of the dingy workshop and the dusty labor field. I've never seen that word written out, dingy. Of the hard hand, strained with service more honorable than that of war. Of the soiled and weather-stained garments on which Mother Nature has stamped, midst sun and rain, midst fire and steam, her own heraldic honors, to be ashamed of these tokens and titles, and envious of the flaunting robes, imbeciles' idleness and vanity. It is treason to nature, impiety to heaven, a breach of heaven's great ordinance. Toil of brain, heart, or hands is the only true manhood and genuine nobility. That's a part of the book too, the toil, the gauntlet. It is seen almost as like a negative connotation, but it can have its positive impacts on society. Labor is a more beneficial ministration than man's ignorance comprehends, or his complaining will admit, even when its end is hidden from him. It is not mere blind drudgery. It is all training, a discipline, development of energies, a nurse of virtues, a school of improvement. From the poor boy who gathers a few sticks for his mother's hearth, to the straw man who fells the oak or guides the ships or the steam car, every human toiler, with every weary step and every urgent task, is obeying a wisdom far above his own, and fulfilling a design far beyond his own design. I don't like how they worded that. Industry lies at the foundation of human improvement. The great law of human industry is this: that industry, working either with the hand or the mind, the application of our powers to some task, to the achievement of some result, lies at the foundation of all human improvement. We are not sent into the world like animals to crop the spontaneous herbage of the field, and then to lie down in indolent repose. Some of these words, man, I have been using for centuries. But we are sent to dig the soil and to plow the sea, to do the business of cities, and work of manufactories. The world is the great and appointed school of industry. In an artificial state of society, mankind is divided into the idle and the laboring classes, but such was not the design of Providence. Labor is man's great function, his peculiar distinction and his privilege. From being an animal that eats and drinks and sleeps only, to become a worker, and with the hands of ingenuity to pour his own thoughts into the molds of nature, fashioning them into forms of grace and fabrics of convenience, and converting them to purpose of improvements and happiness, is the greatest possible step in privilege. The more privilege you have, the more you should do. Do not be idle with that privilege. That's why you see those fuckers continuously working. But sometimes ego gets involved, and it's work that's counterproductive in a way. Maybe not to them. The earth and the atmosphere are man's laboratory. With spade and plow, with mining shaft and furnace and forges, with fire and steam, midst the noise and whirl of swift and bright machinery. And abroad in the silent fields, man was made to be ever working, ever experimenting. And while he and all his dwellings of care and toil are borne onward with the circling skies, and the splendors of heaven all around him, and their infinite depths image and invite his thoughts. Still, in all the words of philosophy, in the universe of intellect, man must be a worker. He is nothing. He can be nothing, can achieve nothing, or fulfill nothing without working. Without it, he gains neither lofty improvements nor tolerable happiness. The idle must hunt down the hours as they prey. To them, time is an enemy. I always feel that way. People make me feel bad for feeling that way. So I was right. It's always like, well, there's not enough time in the fucking day. I gotta continuously work. Like, well, you need to calm down. You need to spend time for yourself. Spoil yourself. Whatever. To them, time is an enemy, clothed with armor, and they must kill him, or themselves die. It never yet did answer, and it never will answer. For any man to do nothing, to be exempt from all care and effort, to lounge, to walk, to ride, and to feast alone. No man can live in that way. God made law against it, which no human power can annul. No human ingenuity evade, hopefully. The idea that a property is to be acquired in the course of 10 or 20 years, which shall suffice for the rest of life, that by some prosperous traffic or grand speculation, all the labor of a whole life is to be accomplished in a brief portion of it, that by dexterous management, a large part of the term of human existence is to be exonerated from the cares of industry and self-denial, is founded upon a grave mistake, upon a misconception of the true nature and design of business, and of the conditions of human well-being. The desire of acclimation for the sake of securing a life of ease and gratification, of escaping from exertion and self-denial, is wholly wrong, though very common. Yeah, you see it right now with all these fucking kids. They don't want to work for it. Their parents help them get this, and they help them get these houses and stuff they've never worked for. Some motherfuckers that work every damn day. I mean, even if, like for me, even if I don't have anything, compared to some people, like those people, I have an apartment. I got my own vehicles. Everything I want, I buy myself, and there's some sort of beauty in that. But there's this weird jealousy. These people that have these parents that I helped you buy this house. What? Help you buy a house? What does that even mean? Or a car I can't even fucking grasp. Your parents helped you buy a car? How do they have money for that? Wish I could drink scotch while I read this, but I can't. That kind of thinking just blows my mind. I don't even understand it. But the fact that I'm working for what I do, there's some sort of gratification that, yes, I don't have as much as, whatever, some people, but I have enough for me, and I've worked for it. And I can't let the resting on my laurels thing happen. I have to keep working. And yes, the job that I do, it's not the job I want, it's not the job I enjoy, but I must continue to do it, and I do have integrity for it. In some sense, but not enough. The job I do at home, the book, I don't do enough. The sleep takes me, the tiredness, the fatigue. I got to fix this stupid fucking shit that happens to me. I need to focus on working and doing what I need to do. Anyway, it is better for the mason to live while he lives and enjoy life as it passes, to live richer and die poorer. Okay. It is best for all of him to banish from the mind that empty dream of future indolence. Sorry, I'm just trying to adjust things. And indulgence. To address himself to be business of life, as a school of his earthly education. To settle it with himself now than independence. If he gains it, it is not to give him exemption from employment. It is best for him to know that in order to be happy, a man, he must always be a laborer, with the mind or the body. It's basically saying like me being a writer. It feels really nice to hear that. Or with both. like I do. I am a fucking labor of mind and body. And that the reasonable exertion of his powers, bodily and mental, is not to be regarded as mere drudgery, but as good discipline, a wise ordinator, a training in this primary school of our being, for noble endeavors and spheres of higher activity hereafter. There are reasons why a mason may lawfully and even earnestly desire a fortune, if he can fill some fine place itself a work of art, while a production of lofty genius. If he can be the friend and helper of a humble worth, if he can seek it out where failing health or adverse fortune presses it hard, and softens, or say, the bitter hours that are hastened it to madness or to the grave. If he can stand between the oppressor and his prey, and bid the fetter and the dungeon give up their victim, if he can build up the great institution of learning and academies of art, if he can open fountains of knowledge for people and conduct its stream in the right channels, if he can do better for the poor than to bestow alms upon them, even to think of them, and devise plans for their elevation in knowledge and virtue, instead of forever opening the old reservoirs and resources of their improvidence. If he has sufficient heart and soul to do all this, or at least part of it, if wealth would be to him the handmaid of exertion, facultating effort, and giving success to endeavor, then may he lawfully and yet warily and modestly desire it. But if it is to do nothing for him, but to minister ease and indulgence, and to place his children in the same bad school, there is no reason why he should desire it. Interesting little section there. That spoke to me in a way that I don't know yet, that I can't understand. Here's the 22nd one. Fucking Christ. 22 and 22. I'm a little nervous to read this one. Even utter indolence repose on treasures that labor at some time gained and gathered. He that does nothing, and yet does not starve, has still his significance, for he is a standing proof that somebody has at some time worked. But not to such does masonry do honor. It honors the worker, the toiler, him who produces and not alone consumes, him who puts forth his hand to add to the treasury of human comforts, and not alone to take away. It honors him who goes forth amidst the struggling elements to fight his battle, and who shrinks not with cowardly effeminacy behind pillows of ease. It honors the strong muscle, and the manly nerve, and the resolute and brave heart, the sweating brow, and the toiling brain. It honors the great beautiful offices of humanity, manhood's toil and woman's task, paternal industry and maternal watching and weariness, wisdom teaching and the patient's learning, the brow of care that presides over the state, and many-handed labor that toils in workshops, fields, the study. Beneath its mild and beneficent sway. I don't understand yet. The poor have made many great achievements. God has not made a world of rich men, but rather a world of poor men, or of men at least who must toil for sustenance. That is, then, the best condition for man, and the grand sphere of human improvement. If the whole world could acquire wealth, and one man is as much entitled to it as another when he is born, if the present generation could lay up a complete provision for the next, as some men desire to do for their children, the world would be destroyed at a single blow. Yes, I know. All industry would cease with the necessity for it. All improvement would stop with the demand for exertion, and the dissipation of fortunes, the mischiefs of which are now countervailed by the healthful tone of society, who breed universal disease and break out into universal license, and the world would sink, rotting as Herod, into the grave of its own loathsome vices. Oh my, hold on. Almost all the noblest things have been achieved in the world have been achieved by poor men, poor scholars, poor professional men, poor artisans and artists, poor philosophers, poets, and men of genius. A certain that's a word I've never seen before. A certain steadiness and sobriety, a certain moderation and restraint, a certain pressure of circumstances are good for man. His body was not made for luxuries. It sickens, sinks, and dies under them. His mind was not made for indulgence. It grows weak, effeminates, and dwarfish under that condition. And he who pampers his body with luxuries and his mind with indulgence bequeaths the consequence to the mind and bodies of his descendants, without the wealth which was their cause. For wealth without a law entails to help it, but always lacks the energy even to keep its own treasures. They drop from its imbecile hand. The third generation almost inevitably goes down the rolling wheel of fortune, and there learns the energy necessary to rise again, if it rises at all. Heir, as to the bodily disease and mental weakness and the soul's vices of its ancestors, and not heir to their wealth. And yet we are, almost all of us, anxious to put our children, or ensure that our grandchildren shall be put on this road of indulgence, luxury, vice, degradation, and ruin. This heirship of heredity, disease, soul malady, and mental leprosy. Malady, not malady. That's how it's spelled. If wealth were employed in promotion mental culture at home and works of philanthropy abroad, if it were multiplying studies of art, building up institutions of learning around us, if it were in every way raising the intellectual character of the world, there could scarcely be too much of it. But if the utmost aim, effort, ambition of wealth be to procure rich furniture, and to provide costly entertainment, and build luxurious houses, administered to vanity, extravagance, and ostentation, there could scarcely be too little of it. To a certain extent, it may laudably be ministers of elegance. Let me just double check that. And luxuries, and the servitor of hospitality and physical enjoyment. But just in proportion as its tendencies, devised of all higher aims and tastes, are running that way, they are running to peril and evil. Nor does that peril attach to individuals and families alone. It stands a fearful beacon in the experience of cities, republics, and empires. The lessons of past times on this subject are emphatic. The history of wealth has always been a history of corruption and downfall. The people never existed that could stand to trial. Boundless profusion is too little likely to spread for any people the theater of manly energy, rigid self-denial, and lofty virtue. You do not look for the bones and sinew and strength of a country, its loftiest talents and virtues, its martyrs for patriotism or religion, its men to meet the days of peril and disaster among the children of ease, indulgence, and luxury. In the great march of the races of men over the earth, we have always seen opulence and luxury sinking before poverty and toil and hardy nature or nurture. This is the law which has presided over the great procession of empire. Sidon and Tyre, whose merchants possessed the wealth of princes, Babylon and Palmyra, the seats of Asiatic luxury, Rome, laden with the spoils of a world, overwhelmed by her own vices more than the hosts of her enemies. All these, and many more, are examples of the destructive tendencies of immense and unnatural accumulation. And men must become more generous and benevolent, not more selfish and effeminate. As they become more rich, or history of modern wealth will follow in the sad train of all past examples. All men desire distinction and feel the need for some ennobling object in life. Those persons are usually most happy and satisfied in their pursuits who have the loftiest ends in view. Artists, merchants, mechanics, and inventors, all who seek to find principle or develop beauty in their work, seem most to enjoy it. The farmer who labors for the beauty and scientific cultivation of his estate is more to enjoy it, is more happy in his labors than one who tills his own land for the mere sustenance. This is one of the signals, testimonies, which all human employment gives to the high demands of our nature. Together, wealth never gives such satisfaction as to bring the humblest piece of machinery to perfection, at least when wealth is sought for display and ostentation, or mere luxury and ease and pleasure, and not for ends of philanthropy, the relief of kindred, or payment of just debts, or as means to attain some other great and noble object. With the pursuit's multitude is connected a painful conviction that they neither supply a significant object nor confer any satisfactory honor. Why work if the word is soon not to know that such a being ever existed? And when one can perpetuate his name neither on canvas nor on marble, nor book, nor by lofty eloquent, nor statesmanship? The answer is that every man has work to do in himself, greater and sublimer than any work of genius. The works upon a nobler material that wood or marble upon his soul and intellect. And many so attain the highest nobleness and grandeur known on earth or in heaven. May so be the greatest of artists and authors, and his life, which is far more than speech, may be eloquent. The great author or artist only portrays what every man should be. This is for me. He conceives what we should do. He conceives and represents moral beauty, magnanimity, fortune, love, devotion, forgiveness, the soul's greatness. He portrays virtues, commended to our admiration and imitation. To embody these portrayers in our lives is the practical realization of those great ideals of art. The magnanimity of heroes, celebrated on the historic or poetic page. The consistency and faith of true martyrs. The beauty of love and piety glowing on the canvas. I don't know what that word is. The delineations of truth and right that flash from the lips of eloquent are in their essence only that which every man may feel practice in the daily walks of life. The work of virtue is nobler than any work of genius. For if the nobler thing is to be a hero than to describe one, to endure martyrdom than to paint it, to do right than to plead for it, action is greater than writing. Yes, a good man is nobler. A good man is a nobler object contemplation than any great author. Let's read that one again. A good man is a nobler object of contemplation than a great author. There are but two things worth living for: to do what is worthy of being written, and to write what is worthy of being read. And the greater of these is the doing. So what I write, I must do. Well, I kind of am, because it's a symbolization of my life. Interesting. Oh, good. Oh, wow. It's almost over. That's quick. Okay. Masonry ennobles common life. Every man has to do the noblest thing that any man can do or describe. Ouch. There is a wide field for the courage, cheerfulness, energy, and dignity of human existence. Let therefore no mason deem his life doomed to mediocrity or meaningless or meanness, to vanity or unprofitable toil, to any ends less than immoral. No one can truly say that the grand prizes of life are for others, and he can do nothing. No matter how magnificent and noble an act the author can describe or the artist can paint, it will be still nobler if you do go and do that which one describes, or be the model which others draw. The loftiest action that ever was described is no more magnanimous than that which we may find occasion to do. In the daily walks of life, in temptation, in distress, in bereavement, in the solemn approach to death, and the great providence of God, and the great ordinance of our being, there is opening to every man a sphere for the noblest action. It is not even the extraordinary situations where all eyes are upon us, where all our energies is aroused, and all our vigilance, wow, I don't know why I couldn't read that, is awake, and that the highest efforts of virtue are usually demanded by us, but rather in silence and seclusion, amidst our occupations and our homes, in weariness, and wearing the sickness that makes no complaint, in sorely tired honesty that asks no praise, in simple disinterestedness, hiding in the hands that resign an advantage to others. Masonry seeks to ennoble common life. It is work. It's work to go down into the obscure and unsearching record of daily conduct and feeling, and to betray not the ordinary virtue of an extraordinary life, but the more extraordinary virtue of ordinary life. What is done and born in the shades of privacy, in the hard and beaten path of daily care and toil, full of uncelebrated sacrifices, in the suffering, and then sometimes insulated suffering, that wears the world a cheerful brow, in the long strife of the spirit, resisting pain, penury, and neglect, carrying on the inmost depth of the heart. What is done, and born, and wrought, and won there, is a higher glory, and shall inherit a brighter crown. On the volume of Masonic life, one bright word is written from, which on every side blazes, ineffable splendor. That is, word is duty. One more time so we can get that. On the volume of Masonic life, one bright word is written, from which on every side blazes ineffable splendor. And that word is duty. To aid in securing to all labor, that's the next word, isn't it? Permanent employment and its own reward, is to help to hasten the coming of that time when no one shall suffer from hunger or destitution. Because though willing and coming of that time, though willing and able to work, he can find no employment, or because he has been overtaken by sickness in the midst of his labor. And part of your duties as a knight of the royal axe. And if we can succeed in making some small nook of God's creation a little more fruitful and cheerful, a little better and more worth of him, or in making some one or two human hearts a little wiser, a more manful and hopeful and happy, we shall have done work worthy of Masons and acceptable to our fathers in heaven. And that's it. Good Christ, man. I often wonder, let me get to the right page here, and mark. So for a long time, this is a beautiful book too, a long time I have been plagued by that number 22. It's been something that just kind of, I didn't know what it meant, I just thought, like, oh, you're born on the 22nd, so, and you're seeking it out. But then over time, over the years, it becomes, becomes more and more prevalent in your life. It keeps happening more and more, and it's not what you're looking for. Like, I looked at the clock and it was 22. Like, it's more than that. All the way down to the smallest of things. It's like I went to get my car repaired at a place, and they did it, and then they send you like, thanks for coming to our place in the mail, and here's a free scratch off. You know, I don't know. That's just what they do. And what is my winning number? That I didn't win, but what is my winning number? 22. I had nothing to do with that. Yes, I went to the place and made that happen, so that was kind of a reward, I guess. You were continuing to toil and work and shit. But, like, I buy things and it has a 22 on it, or I see this 22 pop up randomly. Someone will say, 22 times that I did this, like in a random conversation and shit. It's many, many things in one. And so finally, today, I was like, well, I don't know what struck me. I was trying to figure out the dream sequence that I talked about in the last one. Like, okay, what's the dream about, and this and that. And then I just saw the book. I wanted to get a little bit of inspiration, so I got the Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. um, Scottish Rite. And I don't know, I just pulled it up and I was like, whoa, what about 22? What is this? And I know you're not supposed to, like, blaze ahead. So that could be a just kind of punishment, but that's what 22, the 22nd degree, I don't remember now, some of the acts and all that. But that's what it said. And so, like, how does that pertain to my life? It's work. That thing that I fucking hate, that thing that I don't want to do. It's that part of me that just doesn't want to go and do those things and progress this. Because in my mind, I was progressing this societal fucking issue. This thing that I don't want to believe. That I'm just this and I'm just that. And just hearing it like, you must find the toil in all of your work. Take pride in what you do, even if it's small. And that's my labor at my job. But then I come home and I don't do that for the book either. And that other point that I brought up of you can write it to help people, but you must live it as well. It kind of made sense because the journey, though metaphoric, if you want to say that, or symbology, and, you know, it is my life. It is the exploration of how to identify and be a better person for it. And that's my goal. My goal is to help with the book. It's to make sense of this world. It's to show the darkest of darkness and how someone like Eris can rise through it, overcome it. That's the message that I'm trying to convey, and that's why I take so much care to make it, because I want it to be my best work. I'm busting my ass to make this happen. I'm doing things that I don't normally do. And I just feel this physical exertion because of it. These strange physical things that are bothering me. The squeezing at my throat, literally. I feel the squeezing and tension. Is that something going on health-wise, or is it neurological or something in my head? I don't know. It's worse when I talk more. But I bring this upon myself, these illnesses and this idleness. So I need to push forward through the pain, through the difficulties and frustrations of this fucking looming depression, to push through it and continue this work to hopefully help someone else with their anxiety, with their depression. Write it in such a way where they need to open their minds to these concepts and realize how things are similar and how, I don't know how to word it. If you work for what you read, then it's all the greater for you. If I don't just write a simple story of my real life and just say, well, you know, here's all the problems I've had, there's nothing that they worked for. My work is to make them work, so together we can find a better way through this, because it is true, all the issues with like this idleness, this younger generation that doesn't want to work for what they've made. Not even what they made, what their parents made and all that stuff. I think that's a grand mistake. And it's kind of, I feel like it's my purpose to change that, to make something happen. It's just been very difficult with the book because I kind of gave up. Like, it wasn't like I thought it wasn't good enough, or I thought that maybe I needed to make changes, and maybe this was pretentious, and who am I to say what's right and wrong? Why do I feel like I have to make this statement? And so I would how do I word it? I would stretch it out and just say, well, I must make it better. And so in that, I decided to make it like, okay, my life. It kind of works around who I am in my life. And through the trials and through the errors that I made, maybe I could find something to pull out of that and explain it to somebody, and so they can find purpose. That's what I was trying to do, but there's a lot of issues to thinking something like that. So I guess just to me, maybe, I don't know, I have no thoughts while I'm thinking this. This is stream of consciousness thinking right now. Maybe reading that kind of gave me a little bit of, obviously an education, but maybe a deeper understanding to what these signs are and what they mean. And this problem that's within myself of the toil, and how I wrote it as negatively, maybe is not so negative at all. I guess the problem I would have is I feel like I'm making someone else richer, but in reality I'm teaching myself how to work harder and take pride in even the smallest things that you do. I think that's important. Yes, you could get lost in the concept of making another man richer, especially if you work for like a fucking just a lowly company or whatever. You could think that way, and that's what I did for years, and that's why I didn't want to try, because it's like it's not worth it. But that place gave me the body that I have now, the strength that I have. I'm not like just purely physically. It gave me physical strength. It didn't make me cut or anything. It just built muscles upon my body that I use and that I need. So it gave me this. It keeps me in shape. It keeps me working, keeps me moving. It keeps my mind occupied. And so that I'd come home and I would feel exhausted. Like I would wake up, because it's a night shift, so I'd wake up and then it's like 2 in the fucking afternoon and I go to bed as soon as I get home at like 6. And I couldn't function until like 4. That's when I started this. I said, finally, okay, I can function. I can think now. I'm allowing that to happen to myself. I'm making that happen for me. Where I get caught in this rut of this idleness at home. And I need to come over here and work on this. This is the second day in a row I've actually done something. So I do feel better about it. It's more... It's rewarding to say that... Let's see if we can just try angles here while we test this. To basically say... There we go. I just got to make sure I get it the right. But yeah, it was rewarding to do this for the second day and to find something, because everything I'm doing in my life, as of now, is totally focused on the book that I'm working on. So every experience that I have, I try to use that for what I'm going to do, what I'm about, what the purpose of the book is. And so I live my life in this purpose, but I never was. I was becoming just stagnant and not doing what I need to do for it. But having this frustration and these years building it, but not building it to my fullest potential, like what I could always do. That was the problem. It wasn't... Let me just adjust this. It wasn't this, I'm not good enough to write. It was this, I was never writing good enough. I don't know how to word it like that. I am good. I am a decent writer. Because I've been working at it and I've been getting better, you know. And that's a very old and obvious statement to say, that you do get better at what you do. So, I don't know, it was difficult, and I guess that's why I stopped doing it or took breaks from it, because I thought you needed to take breaks to refresh some sort of consciousness within you, to like make something, how do I word it, kind of strike you in a different way, to make something like a fresh look at something. If I take a break from it, just like, all right, I'm gonna have a cigarette and I'm gonna come back, something like that. Like, okay, wow, I didn't notice it. I think there's merit in that. It's not saying that you 24/7, if you don't bust your ass, it's not worth it. I mean, it could say that, and I just don't understand. But how I take it is, sometimes you do have to take a break and just stop yourself and just say, okay, holy shit, let's just chill out for a minute. Is this right? Is what I'm doing beneficial to whoever will read it? Because that's the purpose behind the book. I want someone to read this and take it and say, okay, I feel these ways too, or I never looked at it that way, or holy shit, I don't, whatever you take from it. That was the point of it. This is supposed to encompass the plunging into like adulthood and depression and anxiety and traumas and stresses and just the things that come with growing up. Being washed into it, being totally lost, and looking to come out of it. And the mistakes that are always made along the way. And even ones that are carried for so long that you already lost because you got in the wrong mindset. And just how tragic that can be. To look for purpose and reason. To understand that you're in control of your own life, not other people. And I know to some people that's an easy concept, but for me that was really difficult to discover. That you're in control of your own life. That sounds so dumb, but I was like, wow, I didn't realize that I could control what I do. But like, there we go. That's a brightness for you. I don't know. I just think that maybe it's just shocking reading that. It's very shocking. It stirred something deeper, something I was probably afraid to find, something that I didn't want to know was there. It's I kind of almost feel speechless in a way about it. Just I don't know. But I need to find the purpose in which I'm doing all of this. I need to find the best way to make this happen. And that's why I'm trying different things. It's a different era. So that's why I'm doing this. To hopefully maybe but also you have to like, well, we don't like the old school way of doing it. Now you have to edit certain ways and cuts and animate this and that. It's like, fuck, I don't want to, but I have to. I got to do it. I don't have any skill in computer things and animations and fucking drawing and all that. I don't really have the skill for that, but if that's what it takes, then, I got to make it happen. So I'm doing everything I possibly can for this book to have its purpose and to reach the right people in the world that feel these ways, that need to hear these things. Even if I don't feel like I'm intelligent when I say it, someone will hear it and it will encompass everything for them. I don't feel like I'm this teller of truths and all that. I just feel like what I'm doing is I'm exploding out the shit that I think of and the stuff I've been through and the things I've kind of discovered. And I'm just putting it out there. I don't feel like, for the longest time, that I should be looked at as someone that guides. I just kind of want to help someone kickstart something. And that probably comes with the whole fear of taking charge and doing things for others. Because you do that for so long, you forget that you need to do it for yourself, and then then you get back to this old concept of like, all right, you're doing this for other people, you're here to help them. Like, well, I don't want no one looking at me like that. I don't want them to see me as something to look up to. I kind of wanted to do it invisibly so nobody would attach anything to me, like names and titles and stupid shit like that. But if I get out, how do I word this? Who I am as a human being, and show that I'm a real person doing this, and say that there is a face behind this that is common. I'm just a normal person. Like I don't have anything spectacular about me. Average height, average looks, average everything. That an average person can do the same things too. You don't have to have this image thing, or you just do what makes you feel good, and look how you want to look. But anyway, that's kind of how I imagine, just if I'm going to put myself out there visually, which I'm very not okay with, but you got to do it, then just show people that it's okay to just be comfortable and not have to, like, make this fucking image up. Like, well, I got a photo, what's on my background? Like, what do they see? Like, what kind of clothes am I wearing? And, like, should I have these tattoos show? And what about, like, doing up my... No. I just do it. Fucking who cares? Just because I'm trying to help people, trying to come across, not like humble, like it's an image thing. It's I'm trying to show that I'm doing this for people. I'm not doing it to make myself look good or like I don't know, is everything fine here? And keep it well lit, speak clearly, and just do whatever you can. That's all that really matters. Framing, fuck it. So, I think finally I lost my thought. So, that'll be this one. Which I don't really know. It's philosophy. I don't know, what would I title this one? And obviously, if I record it visually, then I am gonna have to attach that on, which is only like what, 13 minutes. It looks like out of an hour. So like, 45 minutes of just straight talking and then like a visual at the end. But I mean, maybe I can like record like, cause I'm new to this. Maybe I can record like me reading and stopping and then like okay, and then talking about it like they do in those other YouTube videos. But then I don't really want it. That seems like kind of productive, And then I'm like talking about it again. I don't know. No, we'll try it. A narration. I don't know what this is called, like a segue out, where it's like showing a visual. He's reading, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden pans to me like, and then that's when I was thinking, like, maybe I should do that. And then, like, it pans back to it. I don't know. I guess that's a formula. I don't know. But anyway, I think this is it. So I'm going to end it on here first. It's a cut. And then, all right, until next time.